जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी। जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी। यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना। यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना। यमुनातीरावनचारी। यमुनातीरावनचारी। जय राधा माधवा कुंज विहारी। जय राधा माधवा कुंज विहारी। जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी। जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी। यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना। यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना। यमुनातीरावनचारी। यमुनातीरावनचारी। जय राधा माधवा कुंज विहारी। जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी। यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना। यमुनातीरावनचारी। यमुनातीरावनचारी। जय राधा माधवा कुंज विहारी। जय राधा माधवा कुंज विहारी। जय कृष्ण बलराम जय कृष्ण बलराम कृष्ण बलराम जय कृष्ण बलराम जय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकतरेष्टोत्तर सतत श्री श्रीमती डिवाइन ग्रेस ये श्री भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। जय विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकतरेष्टोत्तर सतत श्री श्रीमती डिवाइन ग्रेस श्रील भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद्भागवतम की जय। श्री श्री कृष्ण बलराम की जय। श्री श्री गौरनिताय की जय। हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय। जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। Reading from Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 23, Text number 39. तेन अष्ट लोकप विहार कुलाचलेन्द्र तेनाष्टलोकप विहार कुलाचलेन्द्र तेनाष्टलोकप विहार कुलाचलेन्द्र द्रोणीषु अनंग सख मारुत सौभगासु द्रोणीष्व अनंग सख मारुत सौभगासु द्रोणीष्वनंग सख मारुत सौभगासु सिद्धैर्नुतो द्युधुनि पात शिव स्वनासु सिद्धैर्नुतो द्युधुनि पात शिव स्वनासु सिद्धैर्नुतो द्युधुनि पात शिव स्वनासु रेमे चिरं धनदवत् ललना वरूथी रेमे चिरं धनदवल्ललना वरूथी रेमे चिरं धनदवल्ललना वरूथी तेनाष्टलोकपविहारकुलाचलेन्द्र द्रोणीष्वनङ्गसखमारुतसौभगासु सिद्धैर्नुतो द्युधिनिपात शिवस्वनासु रेमे चिरं धनदवल्ललना वरूथी तेनाष्टलोकपविहारकुलाचलेन्द्र द्रोणीष्वनङ्गसखमारुतसौभगासु सिद्धैर्नुतो द्युतिनिपातशिवस्वनासु रेमे चिरं धनदवल्ललनावरुथि Tena, by that airplane, Ashtalokapa, of the predominating deities of the 8 heavenly planets. Vihara, the pleasure grounds. Kula Achala Indra, of the king of the mountains. Meru, Dronishu, in the valleys. Ananga, of passion. Sakha, the companions. Maruta, with breezes. Saubhagasu, beautiful. Siddhaihi, by the Siddhas. Nutaha, being praised. Dyudhuni, of the Ganges. Pata, of the downfall. Shivasvanasu, vibrating with auspicious sounds. Reme, he enjoyed. Chiram, for a long time. Dhanadavat, like Kuvera. Lalana, by damsels. Varuthi, surrounded. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. In that aerial mansion, he travelled to the pleasure valleys of Mount Meru, which were rendered all the more beautiful by cool, gentle, fragrant breezes that stimulated passion. In these valleys, the treasurer of the gods, Kuvera, surrounded by beautiful women and praised by the Siddhas, generally enjoys pleasure. Kardama Muni also, surrounded by the beautiful damsels, and his wife went there and enjoyed for many, many years. Kindly repeat. In that aerial mansion, he travelled to the pleasure valleys of Mount Meru, which were rendered all the more beautiful by cool, gentle, fragrant breezes that stimulated passion. In these valleys, the treasurer of the gods, Kuvera, surrounded by beautiful women and praised by the Siddhas, generally enjoys pleasure. Kardama Muni also, surrounded by the beautiful damsels, and his wife went there and enjoyed for many, many years. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Kuvera is one of the 8 demigods who are in charge of different directions of the universe. It is said that Indra is in charge of the eastern side of the universe, where the heavenly planet or paradise is situated. Similarly, Agni is in charge of the southeastern portion of the universe. Yama, the demigod who punishes sinners, is in charge of the southern portion. Nirriti is in charge of the southwestern part of the universe. Varuna, the demigod in charge of the waters, is in charge of the western portion. Vayu, who controls the air and who has wings to travel in the air, is in charge of the northwestern part of the universe. And Kubera, the treasurer of the demigods, is in charge of the northern part of the universe. All these demigods take pleasure in the valleys of Mount Meru, which is situated somewhere between the sun and the earth. In the aerial mansion, Kardamumuni travelled throughout the 8 directions, controlled by the different demigods described above. And as the demigods go to Mount Meru, he also went there to enjoy life. When one is surrounded by young, beautiful girls, sex stimulation naturally becomes prominent. Kardamumuni was sexually stimulated, and he enjoyed his wife for many, many years in that part of Mount Meru. But his sex indulgence was praised by many, many siddhas, beings who have attained perfection, because it was intended to produce good progeny for the good of universal affairs. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yatkripatamaham mande Sri Gurum Deenataranam. So we are seeing here how Kardamumuni, having built his mansion, which had the ability to fly in the air and which was very opulently created with all the facilities, whatever a couple could desire for. It was equipped with everything, and this aeroplane was such a big one that it not only had palaces, it also had many ponds filled with live swans as well as artificial ones, and filled with various kinds of gardens, and there were many Gandharva girls to assist Kardamumuni and Devahuti in their daily activities. And all this arrangement Kardamumuni created for what? So that he could beget children in his wife Devahuti as per her desire. And this aeroplane as itself, it is so wonderful. It was made even more wonderful by the fact that it could travel anywhere in the universe. In this earthly planet, we have aeroplanes which can travel within the atmosphere of the earth. They cannot cross the atmosphere of the earth. But Kardamumuni's plane was so wonderful, it could travel to different planets in different parts of the universe. And so Kardamumuni took that plane along with his wife Devahuti and the Gandharva girls, and he went to Mount Meru. Why to Mount Meru? Because Mount Meru is filled with many beautiful water bodies by the Gangaji, by beautiful forests, celestial flowers, and the natural beauty is there is far higher than you find on this earth. And all the devatas, especially Kubera, because the Mount Meru is located to the north of the Himalayas, north of this earth. And that northern part of the universe is under the jurisdiction of Kubera. So especially Kubera, because he is the treasurer of the demigods, naturally, he is a very, very opulent person. And he, whenever he wants to enjoy a picnic, he will bring all his women associates and he will enjoy in the gardens of Mount Meru. So we can understand that the highest pleasures available to even the devatas is available in Mount Meru. That is why the treasurer of the demigods himself goes there when he wants to enjoy. And so, Devahuti, because he wanted to enjoy similarly with his wife, he took his wife along with all the Gandharva girls on a picnic, not to any part of this earth, but to Mount Meru. So the plane was capable of traveling across space and going and landing in Mount Meru. So what we have to understand is the Devatas are awarded the higher planets where there are higher, much better facilities for sense gratification than it is available on this earth. On this earth, we require artificial means to maintain our beauty. We need to take bath every day. Actually speaking, human beings are supposed to take bath at least 2 or 3 times in a day. Just one bath a day alone is not enough. But we have to take bath every day, and then not only take bath every day, we have to apply some eau de cologne, some perfume to keep us smelling fresh throughout the day. And we use different kinds of soaps and fair and lovely creams and whatnot to keep ourselves looking young and beautiful. In the heavenly planets, it is said that the Apsaras there, their body fragrance, their natural bodily fragrance is not like human beings on this earth. The natural bodily smell, you cannot say fragrance, smell of the human beings, you have to always suppress it by taking bath and keeping yourself clean, and you have to use perfumes and all that to suppress the stink that comes out of our bodies. Actually, our bodies they can emanate only stink. They cannot emanate any beautiful fragrance. But the Apsaras in the heavenly kingdoms, their body naturally exudes the fragrance of the lotuses. Nalina Gandha Rucham. Their bodies naturally exude the fragrance of lotus flowers. Can you imagine that? So, the kind of naturally available facilities for sense gratification in the heavenly planets is far, far higher than what we find on the earthly planets. Actually, even when we go to the lower planetary systems, there are Tala, Atala, Rasatala, and so many other lower planetary systems which are below the earthly planetary system. Even in those planets, you can find opulence which cannot be found on the earth. So, the opulences which are available on the heavenly planets are of the sattvic kind. And if we want to enjoy that kind of pleasure which is available in the heavenly planets, then the Karma Kanda portion of the Vedas, they describe different kinds of sacrifices that we have to perform. Agnishtoma, Darsha Pancharatra, and all those kind of different kinds of yajnas are prescribed in the Karma Kanda portion of the Vedas. Following the Darsha Paurnamasi and following the Chaturmasya Vrata, by following all these kind of different vratas, performing different yajnas, the Panchasuna yajna and others, one can elevate oneself to the heavenly kingdoms. The facilities which are provided in the heavenly planets are far higher than on the earth, because the people living in those heavenly planets have accumulated lots of punya. So, the way to promote ourselves to that planet is to accumulate punya. And how to accumulate punya? By following the karma kanda portion of the Vedas. That is how personalities like Kubera, Indra, Agni, Vayu, all these Nirriti, all the different kinds of devatas who have been described, they have accumulated heaps and heaps of punya, pious activities they have done over several lifetimes, and by that they have become qualified to live in a planet, in the heavenly planets, where there are a lot of facilities for sense gratification. Now, in the case of Kardama Muni, he simply on the strength of his devotional service, he is able to freely go to any heavenly planet of his choice. So we can see that actually to obtain pleasure, especially when it comes to material pleasure, there are two methods by which we can attain that. Krishna also tells in the Bhagavad-gita that those who engage in lot of punya karma, they attain to the heavenly planets. And having once attained those heavenly planets, however, they don't get permanent residence there. Kshine punye martya lokam vishanti. Once they exhaust the stock of pious reactions that they have accumulated, they will again fall down to the earth to take birth as human beings, and where they get an opportunity to again accumulate pious reactions, and then again they can go to the heavenly planets, and once they have sufficiently enjoyed there, they can come back, and like this they keep going up and down. So the nature, the way the material universe is created is that there are gradations of material facilities available for the people, for all the living entities. Now you have the currency of punya, you can enjoy the certain specific standard of happiness within this material universe. And once you exhaust that currency, again you have to earn, and then again you can enjoy. This principle we can see everywhere running in this material world. Even on this earthly planet, if you want to enjoy, you have to earn money. And once you earn money, you spend that money and you go on a vacation abroad, or you go to some amusement park, or you go to a movie, you go to a restaurant, you spend that money and you feel certain material happiness, and then your money is exhausted. Next day, you have to again go to office, and you have to earn money again to be able to spend that money and enjoy over the next weekend. This is the nature of this material world. We can find this principle working everywhere. Even to attain position as a devata, or to go to the heavenly planets also, the same principle applies. We have to earn the currency of not paper money like it is in this material world, but we have to earn the currency of punya. And by earning that currency of punya, we can go to the heavenly planets and we can enjoy. That is one process. But that's not the only process to enjoy within this material universe. Generally, we think that if we have to enjoy in this material world, whether it is on this earth or in the heavenly planets, we need punya. But that's not the only way to enjoy in this world. Like the example of Kardama Muni, if we render devotional service to Krishna, bhakti to Krishna if we render, then automatically all kinds of pleasures become available to that bhakti yogi. So by following the process of jnana yoga, by following the process of dhyana yoga, one actually undergoes severe distress. Krishna also says in the Bhagavad-gita that those who follow the path of worshipping the impersonal Brahman, they have to undergo various tribulations. Klesho adhikataras tesham avyakta sakta chetasam. Those whose minds are attached, asakta chetasam, those whose minds are attached, avyakta, to the impersonal to the worship of the impersonal form of the Supreme Absolute Truth, klesho adhikataraha, they have to undergo different kinds of tribulations. But in the case of a Bhakti Yogi, simply by performing devotional service to Krishna, he enjoys within this material world, in this life and in the next life also. He never falls down, he never has to undergo any distress. So, although punya can give you different kinds of happiness within this material universe, it still cannot give you spiritual happiness. Now, the beauty of Bhakti Yoga is that it not only gives you material happiness, it also gives you access to spiritual happiness, Brahmananda, even beyond Brahmananda. Engaging in various kinds of tapasya, austerities on the path of jnana and on the path of dhyana gives you access to Brahmananda. It gives you access to the bliss which is enjoyed within the impersonal effulgence of the Supreme Lord Krishna. But the pleasure that a Bhakti Yogi enjoys is far superior to Brahmananda. That pleasure also of Brahmananda becomes like the amount of water contained in the hoof print of a calf, compared to the happiness that a Bhakti Yogi experiences, which is like an ever-increasing ocean of happiness. Anandambudhi Vardhanam. It is an ambudhi, it is an ocean of Ananda, bliss. What kind of ocean? In this earth, we have experience of oceans which maintain their limits. They have their boundaries. Oceans are huge, vast amount. They carry vast amounts of water, but still they have a certain boundary to maintain. But the ocean of the bliss of bhakti is such that it is anandambudhi vardhanam. It is constantly increasing. As it is a huge, vast amount of bliss that is available to the bhakti yogi. But not only is it vast, it is also constantly increasing. So Brahmananda can never compare to the happiness of the happiness of devotional service. And that Brahmananda, when we compare it to material happiness, that material happiness it becomes inconsequential, it becomes abominable, it becomes something contemptible, something which a Jnana Yogi who is experiencing Brahmananda, he will never want to taste that material sense pleasure. So you can imagine the quantum of Brahmananda itself, it is not ordinary. That itself is so fantastic that a person who experiences that will give up all his desire for material sense gratification. Whereas that Brahmananda itself pales in comparison with the Ananda of engaging in devotional service to Krishna. So, like Kardama Muni is displaying here, he did not have to undergo the different procedures mentioned in the Karmakanda portions of the Vedas to elevate himself, to go to the Mount Meru and to enjoy the facilities which is kept aside for Kubera. So, ordinarily it is not possible, but ordinarily in the general course of things, what has to happen? A person has to execute various punya karmas according to the Vedas, according to the Karmakanda portion of the Vedas, and he has to, in his next life, he has to take birth in the heavenly planets to enjoy. With the same body, in the current body as a human being on the earth, nobody has access to those pleasures in the heavenly planets. But in the case of Kardama Muni, he did not have to undergo any of the Karmakanda portion of the Vedas. He did not have to give up his current body. He did not have to take birth in the heavenly planets. Directly he went and enjoyed in the forests, the groves of Mount Meru, which are dedicated for the pleasure of Kuvera himself. So we can see the process of Bhakti Yoga is so powerful, it can overwhelm even the results which are available by Karmakanda. Therefore, for every living entity, it is appropriate that the living entity engages in devotional service to Krishna without following any of the required duties which are described in the Vedas. So, if a person engages in devotional service to Krishna, neglecting all the other duties which are given in the Vedas, that person is going to enjoy a far greater happiness and bliss than what is available even to the persons who are strict followers of the Karmakanda. Generally, when the strict Karmakandis, the Smartha Brahmanas, when they see devotees engaged in rendering devotional service, chanting Hare Krishna, singing and dancing in front of the deities, we are not engaged in strict following of the Vedic rituals and practices. So when they see us, they think, oh, these people are all very fallen. They have no idea how to follow the Vedic rules and regulations. How can these people who are born in the families of Mlechas and Yavanas, how can they engage in activities of performing fire sacrifices, engaging in deity worship? That is meant for people who have got the Brahmana bodies. A person gets Brahmana body, the body of a Brahmana. A person takes birth in a Brahmana family by accumulating punya. So without that punya, somebody is born in a Shudra family or is born in a Mlecha or Yavana family. That means nature, by the design of the laws of karma, he does not have the punya to engage in all these activities. So they say, whatever you are doing is okay. By doing this, next birth you take birth as Brahmanas, then you can actually worship the deities and you can think of elevating yourself to the spiritual world. So this kind of logic is given by the Smartas because they have a poor fund of knowledge about the power of devotional service. The power of devotional service is such that anybody who engages in the simple process of chanting the holy names of Krishna, anybody who engages in chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, he has crossed over all the yajnas that a person can perform. He has crossed over all the Swadhyaya, all the deep study of the Vedas. He has crossed over all these things. As we will see, Devahuti herself, in her conversations with her son Kapiladeva, she will explain this. She will say that a person who is born even in the family of a dog eater, Shvapacho Ato Gariyan, his birth is higher than that of a Brahmana. Yajjigvagre vartate namatubhyam. If a person, even though he may be born in a Chandala family, forget about Yavana and Mlecha and all that. A Chandala is supposed to be lower than even a Mlecha and a Yavana because he eats the flesh of a dog. So even such a person who is lower than the lowest, he has to be considered, he has to be accorded a place higher than even a person born in a Brahmana family. If that dog eater, he is engaged in chanting the holy name of Krishna. Yad jihvagre vartate namatubhyam. If on the tip of his tongue constantly the holy name of Krishna is being vibrated, then even though he may be born in a Chandala family, he still has to be accorded greater respect than a person is accorded who is born in a Brahmana family. So the Vedas, they are very, very clear on this aspect. Name bhaktaha shudraha tepi bhagavatottamaha. So the Supreme Lord Krishna himself says, this is his final verdict, that those who are devotees of Krishna, even though they may be born in a Shudra family, they are not to be considered Shudras. Tepi Bhagavatottamaha, they are to be considered as Uttama Bhagavatas. And those who are born in the higher castes, Sarva Varneshu Te Shudra, they may be born as a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya. But whatever Varna you may be born in, you are a Shudra. Yena Bhakta Janardane. If you are not a devotee of Janardana, Krishna, then even though you may be born in a Brahmana family, you are to be considered a Shudra. So, the Vedas are very clear that no matter what kind of birth you have taken, immaterial of that, if you engage in devotional service to Krishna, then you are to be considered having crossed over that sinful birth. Because we have to understand in the process of karma kanda, when the karma kandi yajnas and other things have to be performed, only persons who are born in the Brahmana families can do that. Why? Because that is a material process, and that material process requires a certain qualification of the performer to be able to produce the desired results. So those yajnas are limited. They are not unlimitedly powerful. They are limitedly powerful. They have the power to grant the benediction of residence in the heavenly planets for the performer, as long as the performer is born in a Brahmana family. If that performer is not born in a Brahmana family, that yajna does not have the power to give that benediction to the performer. Whereas the process of Bhakti Yoga, the process of chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, is completely spiritual. It is not material. And therefore, it is not bound by any material obligations, material rules and regulations, material boundaries, material limits cannot be imposed on the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Therefore, whoever chants Hare Krishna Mahamantra, immediately he becomes the highest punyavan. No amount of punya can compare with the process of devotional service. So, the point is that the power of devotional service is such that the highest pleasure which is available by the greatest punya is easily available without any difficulty, without having to undergo the austerities mentioned in the Vedas, to a person who is engaged in devotional service. This is the power of devotional service. But that kind of material bliss is not the end result of engaging in devotional service. For bhakti, the bestowing of material sense pleasure is a side benefit. It is a side effect. It is not the main goal. It is not the main result to be achieved by performing Bhakti Yoga. The main result of performing Bhakti Yoga is that one will permanently get liberated from this material world. One will lose all attraction for material sense gratification. The highest pleasure which is available to the greatest of the demigods becomes most tuchha for the devotee. This is the real effect of engaging in devotional service to Krishna. And that devotional service will take us to the permanent residence in the spiritual abode of Krishna. This is the real effect of Bhakti Yoga. So, the description given in the Srimad-Bhagavatam of the kind of enjoyment that Karda Mumuni enjoyed, we have to understand it is meant for the Sakama Bhaktas. So, that question may arise in our minds that Srimad-Bhagavatam is supposed to be Amala Purana. It is supposed to be a spotless Purana which is supposed to bless us. It is supposed to grace us with Krishna Prema. So why is the Bhagavatam speaking of all these material sense pleasures which is available to Kuvera, which Karda Mumuni is enjoying? So that's not supposed to be the goal that Srimad-Bhagavatam is supposed to direct us towards. So these kind of descriptions in the Bhagavatam also we will find in various places. There are descriptions of material sense pleasures. So we have to understand that those portions of the Bhagavatam are meant for the Sakama Bhaktas, those who are engaging in devotional service to Krishna, but who have some material desires in their hearts. So these kind of descriptions are given to assure them that don't worry, don't be under the false impression that the devotees of the Devatas can have access to sense pleasures which we as devotees of Krishna cannot access. So even the greatest pleasure available for the greatest devotee of the greatest demigod is easily available for a devotee of Krishna. Don't worry. So this is the assurance being given by the Bhagavatam. So why should Bhagavatam give an assurance like that? Because the goal of Bhagavatam is yena kena prakarena. Somehow or the other, engage a person in Krishna's service. That is why in the very beginning of the Bhagavatam, it is said that akamaha sarva kamo va moksha kama udaradhihi tivrena bhakti yogena yajayata purusham param. That even if you have all the material desires in this world, sarva kamaha, or akama, you don't have any material desires, or moksha kama, you have a desire to achieve liberation. Whatever desire you have, engage in tivra bhakti yoga, engage in intense, exclusive devotional service to Krishna. So why is Bhagavatam giving this encouragement? That first of all, the Bhagavatam in the beginning said, Projita kaitavo dharma. It said all kaitava dharma is kicked out. What is kaitava dharma? That dharma which promises material sense gratification to its followers is kaitava dharma. Real dharma is what? What promises Krishna prema, what promises love of God to you. So having kicked out all such projita kaitava dharma, having kicked out all such kaitava dharma, all dharmas which promise sense gratification to you, why is Bhagavatam again encouraging sarva kama? If you have all kamas, please engage in devotional service to Krishna. Why? Because as we see in the brilliant example of Dhruva Maharaj, anybody who engages, who comes in touch with Krishna, anybody who comes in touch with the holy name of Krishna, anybody who takes up the process of chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, eventually that process of devotional service will purify him, and he will forget his material desire, and he will develop pure devotional service to Krishna. So that is why Dhruva Maharaj also, he worshipped Krishna, he worshipped Narayana with the sole intention of getting a kingdom bigger than his father's. But after performing devotional service and achieving his goal of getting darshan of Narayana, from whom he wanted to ask the benediction of getting the biggest kingdom, what did he do? When Narayana appeared before him and asked him, "Oh Dhruva, you have pleased me with your austerities. Ask me, what do you want?" What was Dhruva Maharaj's response? Sthanam vichin, what is that? Sthanabilashi tapasis stitoham tvam praptavan deva munindra guhyam kacham vichinmanapi divya ratnam swamin kritarthosmi varam na yache. He said, it's not that Dhruva Maharaj forgot his desire. That when he saw Narayana, when he saw Ajita in front of him, he forgot all his desire and he got bewildered. No. He prayed to the Supreme Lord Narayana. What did he say? Sthanabhilashi, oh my Lord, I have worshipped you with an intention to get a material position of being an emperor bigger than my father. Sthanabhilashi tapasistitoham. And for that purpose, I worshipped you. I engaged in all these austerities these last 6 months for that purpose. So Dhruva Maharaj has not forgotten the purpose. So Sthanabhilashi tapasistitoham. But ultimately, instead of getting the kingdom, what have I got? Tvam praptavan, I've got you. I've got you. Tvam praptavan, deva munindra guhyam, whom even the devatas and big munis cannot attain. I have attained. And this attainment of mine is like kacham vichinman, someone who was searching for broken pieces of glass. By some great fortune, he came across a very valuable jewel. Kacham vichinmanapi divya ratnam. Somebody is searching for some broken pieces of glass. He got a divya ratna in his hand. His intention was not to get divya ratna. His intention was to get some broken pieces of glass. But what did he end up with? Divya ratna. So likewise, I was engaging on all this tapasya for some material benefits. But what did I get? I got you, who are not obtainable even by devatas and great munis. And so therefore, Tvam praptavan deva munindra guhyam. So therefore he says, Varam na yache. I am completely satisfied having got you. Varam na yache. I don't want any vara. Dhruva Maharaj said, I don't want. He lost. It's not that he forgot his desire. He lost the taste. He lost the desire to fulfill that desire. That desire itself became so contemptible that he said, I don't want. I don't want this. This is such a crazy desire I had. It is meaningless. So this is the effect of rendering devotional service to Krishna. So the Bhagavatam is pulling, it is attracting all kinds of people towards itself. So the Bhagavatam is showing how even the greatest happiness which is available to the devatas can be obtained by simply engaging, rendering devotional service to Krishna. Why? So the Bhagavatam, what it does is, those who are Sakama Bhaktas also start reading Bhagavatam. What will happen is, we are still in the third canto. So a Sakama Bhakta engages in reading Bhagavatam. He'll go from third to fourth to fifth to sixth to seventh to eighth to ninth. By the time he reaches the end of ninth canto, he would have forgotten, he would have given up all his material desires. He will say, I don't want any of these things. I want only Krishna. Yes, now you are ready. 10th canto, Krishna is there for you. So the whole process of Bhagavatam is this. Attract all kinds of people. If you are Akamaha, you are Sakama, Mokshakama, read Bhagavatam. From the first canto you start, by the time you come to the 10th canto, you don't want anything other than Krishna. This is the whole, the design, the whole plan of the Srimad-Bhagavatam to purify the conditioned soul, to come to such a state that he will lose the taste for everything material, and he will develop the desire to possess only Krishna. This is what the Bhagavatam is aiming for. And so towards that end, we will find these kind of descriptions also in the Bhagavatam. So for a devotee, he is not bereft of anything. Those who are engaged in all kinds of punya karmas, those who are engaged in all kinds of karmakandi activities, all kinds of jnanakanda activities, all kinds of ashtanga yoga, whatever a person may be performing, all that is available, and even more to the bhakti yogi. So a devotee need not have any sort of doubt whether he is missing out on anything. That is the assurance of the Bhagavatam, because the chapters of the Bhagavatam up to 9th canto, they are elevating the Kanishta Adhikari to the platform of Madhyamadhikari and to the platform of Uttamadhikari. On the platform of Kanishta, our Shraddha is very Komala. Komala Shraddha sa Kanishto Nigadyate. One whose faith is, one whose Shraddha is very Komala is called a Kanishta Adhikari. And what is the Bhagavatam doing? The Bhagavatam is elevating, is strengthening our Shraddha little by little by taking you through all the cantos. And one whose prouder Shraddha, one whose Shraddha is very deep, which is unshakable, that is Sa Bhakta Uttamo Mataha. He is the topmost devotee. So, to come to the platform of Uttama Bhakti, we have to, the whole process is to strengthen our Shraddha, increase our faith in Krishna more and more and more. And that is what the Bhagavatam is doing. The Bhagavatam is replacing our faith in the Karma Kanda, replacing our faith in Jnana Kanda, replacing our faith in Ashtanga Yoga, replacing our faith in Karma Yoga with Bhakti Yoga. And gradually making it firmer and firmer and firmer until we come to the stage of being proud of Shraddha, being deeply having the deepest conviction that by serving Krishna, everything else is achieved. So that is what the Bhagavatam is doing. It is elevating our standard, our depth of our conviction in Krishna. So to that end, the Bhagavatam does everything that is required. And so therefore, there are description of various things like Karda Mumuni's enjoyment in the heavenly planets, the Payovrata, and various other material achievements are also described in the Bhagavatam. But it is totally unlike the other portions of the Vedic scriptures which end with giving you that material pleasure. The Bhagavatam replaces that. The Bhagavatam says all that you can achieve there, you can achieve by devotional service also. And so increase your faith in devotional service so that you come to the stage of Uttama Bhakti. So we'll stop here. If there are any questions or comments, we can discuss. Yes, please.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So some devotees may perform devotional service for some gain.
Yes.
So for some devotees, they may attain those gains.
Yeah.
But Krishna says, if I want to give special mercy, I'll take away whatever you have. So how to understand this?
Actually, if you see the Bhagavatam, that conversation between Lord Krishna and Yudhishthira Maharaj, where Krishna mentions this, Yasyaham anugrahnami harishye tadhanaihi. That is actually one verse in the midst of several verses. So Krishna says that Krishna begins the first verse by saying that whom I want to bless, then what do I do with him? Then Krishna tells 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things. So Krishna says, Yasyaham anugrahnami harishye tadhanam sanaihi. I take away the wealth, the opulence of a person who has a desire to surrender unto me and at the same time has desires for sense gratification. Then what I will do, by doing that, the person, all the relatives, everybody will leave him and go away. When he does that, when that happens to that devotee, what will happen? His eyes will get opened up and he will realize that, oh, all these things are temporary. These things are not going to stay with me permanently. And so his mind will turn towards Krishna more strongly. You see, whenever a person comes across distressful situations in life, if he has enough punya karma, he will become more pious when he undergoes distress. If he does not have enough piety, when he comes across distressful conditions, what will happen? He will become atheistic. He will lose his faith. He will lose his faith in any demigod or whomever he is worshipping. So, you will see two kinds of reactions. When a person undergoes severe distress, he will say, I don't know why God did this to me. I never did anything wrong. So, I have lost all faith. That is one kind of reaction. Another kind of reaction, you will see that when somebody undergoes severe distress, I have done so many sinful activities because of which I am getting all this reaction. So, he prays to God and he says that please forgive me for my sinful reactions. So, his faith increases. Now, in the case of a person who is specially favored by Krishna, Krishna will create distressful situations in his life and increase his conviction in Krishna. Increase his conviction in Krishna. And so, when that person's conviction in Krishna increases, Krishna further says what he will do is, he will seek out the association of saintly people. And by the association of the saintly people, his goal in life will change and he will become oriented towards getting out of the cycle of birth and death within this material world. He will want to go back to the spiritual world. He will give up his material desires. So therefore, to propel that devotee in that direction, Krishna takes all those actions. Krishna takes away his wealth. Krishna brings him in contact with some devotees. So it all acts fortuitously in that case of a devotee who is specially favored by Krishna. That devotee loses his wealth, he becomes frustrated, then suddenly Krishna brings him into the association of devotees. In the association of devotees, he gets transcendental knowledge, and by that transcendental knowledge, he overcomes that grief and he reorients himself towards worshipping Krishna and going back to Godhead. So this is the total gamut of that particular verse where Krishna says that. You can read all those verses in sequence. So, this happens in the case of a devotee who wants to serve Krishna but still harbors, continues to maintain that material desire. In the case of a devotee like Kardama Muni, we can see the moment Kapiladeva was born, he gave up his family and went away. So he did not continue to maintain his desire. The moment his desire was fulfilled, he said, enough, over. Now, fully I am dedicating myself to rendering devotional service to Krishna. So, in the case of a devotee, if Krishna sees that if I fulfill his desire, he will stop, that desire will stop there and he will increase his conviction towards me and he will render exclusive devotional service, then Krishna will allow, Krishna will give that material opulence, that material, Krishna will fulfill that material desire of that devotee. But if Krishna sees, if I give this material, if I fulfill his material desire, he will go on asking again and again for the same thing. Then Krishna will not give. Then Krishna will take away. Satyam dishatyarthitam arthitam. So Krishna definitely fulfills the desire of a devotee, provided he does not continue to ask again and again the same desire. If once he asks, Krishna sees, once I fulfill his desire, he is going to give it up. Krishna will give. If he sees, no, if I give, he will not end there. He will go on asking for more and more. Krishna will not give. So this is what the Bhagavatam clearly establishes. Ultimately, Krishna wants the devotee to come back to Godhead. And so to that end, Krishna is ready to do anything. Krishna is ready to fulfill the desire of the devotee. Krishna is ready to not fulfill the desire of the devotee also. Whichever is required to pull that devotee towards him and take him back to Godhead. Yes, please.
Having attained the Supreme Lord as his own child, why did Kardama Muni have to leave his house and then render devotional service rather than staying in his house and then taking care of the Lord?
Because that is the Yuga Dharma. In those yugas, in the previous yugas, the Yuga Dharma is that once one has a grown-up son, he has to leave the house, take sannyas and go to the forest and render devotional service. That's Pancha Ashordham Manam Vrajeta. After 50 years, you cannot stay in the house. That is adharma. So, in those ages, you could follow dharma very nicely and execute devotional service within that principles of dharma. That is what Krishna wants. But in Kali Yuga, what happens is Varnashrama dharma has collapsed. So, you cannot execute devotional service within the ambit of dharma. So, therefore, what is required? Sarva dharman parityaja, to give up all dharma and execute exclusive devotional service to Krishna. So, because it was possible to perform devotional service within the ambit of dharma, that is preferred. If one is able to follow Varnashrama dharma and perform devotional service, that is preferred. But if the situation is like Kali Yuga, where practicing dharma becomes impossible, then execute Ananya Bhakti, execute exclusive devotional service. So, in the case of Kardama Muni, it was not impossible for him to perform his dharma. He could give up his family, take sannyas and go to the forest and execute devotional service and perfect himself. So he followed that path. That is how we have to understand. Is that okay? So we'll stop here. Grantharaj Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.